What is up, guys, and welcome back to Force Friday. Now, today I'm going to be talking about dark side Force users. Now, I'm going to try to make these sort of flow in the order that I do them, but there might be some that stick out, because there's no real perfect order that I can do all of these in. And I'm not going to be talking about the lightsabers of these characters, because that could honestly be an entire video in itself. So up first is this version of Darth Maul. This is the oldest version of Darth Maul that I own. Now, as you can see, he has this very simplistic chest print to him, seeing as how old this was. But Darth Maul's headpieces have always been super well detailed. I love the amount of tattoos on it. Seeing as how old it is, mine has a little bit of wear on it. I've always loved Darth Maul's character, so to have a minifigure of him at the time was so exciting for me. This has no back printing, and it did come with this cape and this hood that goes over him. Pretty standard, pretty simplistic, not a lot going on here. But it does look pretty accurately like him from the Phantom Menace. I love how his yellow eyes pierce through you from like the black and red of the hood. So up next is still Darth Maul, but it is this version of Darth Maul. This is once again based on his look from the Phantom Menace. However, I'm not sure that this one came with the cape, but I put one on him anyways. This came in a bit of a later set. It's still one of the older looks of Darth Maul. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this version came with horns instead of a hood. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it came with them. Now, honestly, I kind of prefer the face of the other one in comparison to this. This one just kind of looks goofy and not as like menacing personally. I think it has to do with the way his tattoos aren't as thick and how his eyes are a little bit bigger than normal. This isn't his look from like the Clone Wars or anything, so I don't know why his eyes are so enlarged, but I do kind of actually prefer the face of the other one. Now, that might also just be because with the hood it always looks better, but I feel like the actual red part of his face looks a lot smaller on this, so I feel like that's why it might be goofy. But other than that, I like how the chest piece is an upgraded look. Definitely has a lot more detail, but it keeps a very similar look. A little more detail in like the fabric itself. And this one does have a back printing, pretty standard, but it doesn't need to be super complicated. It's just a back printing, and it's on a black piece, so it doesn't have a ton of detail as is. Now up next is the version of Darth Maul from the Star Wars Clone Wars Season 7. Now, I absolutely love this minifigure. I love the way you can see where his robotic legs are through like this shine in the silver down here. And how instead of just being black like every other version of Darth Maul, he's actually this like dark silver color, which I talked about a little bit in the Mandalorian episode. And once again, I know for a fact this one did come with these head horns here, and there's a lot more red on the face, so it makes his face look bigger, which I personally like more. And his eyes are super menacing. I love the way that there's even some red behind it. People have given a lot of crap to a lot of the Darth Maul faces. I love how menacing he looks and just like furious he looks. Also, I like how you can see his chest through the robes here, and I love the amount of detail on this waistband that goes around, even continuing on to the back, keeping up with this part of his black cloak that comes down the back and gets tucked underneath. Really well done minifigure. I like how different it is from all the other versions, and it pretty accurately nails his look from the Clone Wars Season 7. Now, that's all of my Darth Mauls that I have, but I do have one other Zabrak, and that is his brother, Savage Oppressor. Now, this is personally one of my favorite Star Wars minifigures, perhaps one of my favorite minifigures in general. Unfortunately, his face is a little worn down on mine because I used to play with this one a lot because of how much I loved him, but I do have this horn piece which is held up pretty well. I love his face. I like the yellow color that he has in general in comparison to Darth Maul. He also looks pretty menacing just naturally, and this chest armor piece is so well detailed. It really has that like Dathomir feel to it, and it's super epic. Now, one thing that I love that they did with this minifigure, which was completely unnecessary, but adds so much level of detail, is that he actually has this super awesome chest printing. Now, you can't even notice it's there most of the time because he has this on, but they still put the attention to detail to add all these little intricacies of his tattoos and everything, and even give him like a six-pack. It just goes to show that when you add detail where it doesn't always need to be, it still makes it look so much better and have like this, and just stand out so much more. And this even has back printing on it, which I didn't know until I just turned it over just now on camera. There's no leg printing, but I don't think it needs it. It has so much detail without it that I don't even think it needs it. I mean, you would never tell that there's back printing or anything underneath. You would just assume it's not there. Super awesome minifigure, definitely one of my favorites. Now up next is another Sith assassin, and that is Asajj Ventress. Now I know some versions of Ventress have these sort of dress legs that Elizabeth Swann and Barriss Offee did in earlier episodes. It has the sort of dress leggings that Professor McGonagall and Elizabeth Swann had, and Barriss Offee also had. My version actually has legs, which personally, I like these a little bit better because it gives you some maneuverability to them, although it would also be nice to have the cape. And this really sticks to my notion of flowing through the prints. This chest print continues onto the waist with like her belt buckle circle, and then down through the legs with these blue swipes that come off the side. Now her face print is also pretty nice. I know some people think, since this was a Clone Wars era, that it's creepy, but her look is like supposed to be creepy, so I personally think it works really well. There was this like nice back printing on her head and even down on her chest. Very well detailed minifigure, and personally it still stands out a lot for me. Now up next is Savage and Ventress's master, and that is Count Dooku. Now unfortunately I only have this Clone Wars look to him. Now this is one of the Clone Wars ones where I kind of agree that his face looks a little bit unsettling. It does in the show as well, but I think on this minifigure here, I don't know why it stands out. I think it's maybe how high up his eyes are and how close together they are. I understand that that's his look from the show, but in this one instance, it kind of translates a little weird. I do like his facial expression, how accurate that is to his character. And I like the beard print and everything, and his hairpiece is the same one that Madame Hooch had from the Harry Potter episode, just this gray, like, slicked back look. And I like this, I love this chest printing, how you can see where his cape is supposed to be held from this chain in the center. And I do like just how he has a brown cape in general. They could have easily not given him one. Unfortunately, there's no back printing underneath there, but I don't really think it needs it because he almost always has this cape on anyways. So, not my favorite version of Count Dooku that I've seen, but it's the only one that I own, so it's still nice having a version of Count Dooku. Now, up next is the guy who replaced Count Dooku as Emperor Palpatine's apprentice, and that is Darth Vader. Now, this is the earliest version of Darth Vader that I own. I think there are some earlier versions of this, but this is the classic one that I always remembered. Now, there's no leg printing, but the amount of detail on this chest print is really well done for the time. Just the amount of buttons and gadgets they put on the chest is super well detailed. And I do like this helmet. It's not the most accurate, but I just have so many fond memories of this look to Darth Vader. Even down to the face print underneath. I like how he has this like gray skin to him with all these like bruise marks and everything. I always have really fond memories of this look. Not the most accurate thing compared to some of the newer models we'll be talking about, but I still like this minifigure. It gives me really good memories and everything. There's no back printing on this, which is fine. It doesn't really need it with the cape and everything. Now, up next is another version of Darth Vader that I have, and that is this version right here. Now, this version I got in the LEGO Death Star set, which was super awesome. I love that set and all the minifigures in that. I do like how it has this leg printing, just to continue sort of these lines from here of his cloak up top, coming all the way down. Just adds a bit more depth to the detail. And as I talked about in the promo, actually, for March Madness, there's no back printing on any of these Darth Vaders that I own. I'm not aware if there ever has been. I think there might have, but I don't understand why they haven't, even like with these most updated ones. It would make sense just to have a little bit. I know that you like never see his back, but they do that with a lot of other characters where you don't always see it. So I don't know why Darth Vader hasn't gotten that sort of treatment to it, but it's not the end of the world. And as you can see with the chest printing itself, it has just a little bit more detail to it, just a couple more lines. And this has this cloth cape that I've talked about earlier, instead of like the almost papery material one. Now, personally, I think I actually prefer this helmet to the other one as far as like looks go. Now, the difference between this, it's not as flat and doesn't come out as far as the classic one does. But personally, I think I like this one a little better, simply for the fact of how it works. Now, there are actually two parts to this helmet. There's this top piece here, which comes off and it just has like his helmet look. And there's this under part here, so you can give him his look from the end of Return of the Jedi. It's just a little more accurate to how his actual helmet works. So personally, I like it, and I think it looks just a little bit better in general. And I do like this face print underneath. I think it's probably more accurate than the gray one. He doesn't really have gray skin. It is just like very pale, pretty much like white skin to him. And I like how he even has these like dots underneath the side of his eye, which he had from the movie and everything. Really well detail on that. There's a ton of detail on that. I really like how it looks. It's pretty accurate. This might be my favorite version of Darth Vader that I own. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is pretty much exactly the same as the last one. There is just one slight difference, and that's this version. This version came in a set which was Darth Vader being put together, but with Emperor Palpatine from the end of episode 3. And the only difference here is this headpiece underneath. It's just supposed to be more of burnt Anakin Skywalker than like quite Darth Vader yet. It just has this back printing and everything on it. I think it's a nice touch that when they released this set, they didn't just give him the standard white face. They actually gave him his own face to go underneath. So just a slight difference there. Besides that, this is the same minifigure. Now, up next is the last version of Darth Vader that I have, and probably the most special or different from all the rest. and that is this battle-damaged Darth Vader. Now, this is based off of his look from the ending of the Force Unleashed game, where he's been defeated by Starkiller, and I like how you can see where his armor's missing and his skin is showing, and how he's just like kind of disheveled and broken altogether. And I like this custom headpiece. It never made a ton of sense to me where it came from, like how it bulbs out where there's no actual helmet anyways. I've never understood the mechanics of it, but it looks cool when it's on there, and I love the face print, how you can see part of the helmet still on there and with the wires and everything. So I still think this is a really cool addition to have. There's no back printing, unfortunately. And in the set this came in, it did come with a Starkiller minifigure. I do have that. I don't know where it ended up. I have looked and looked and looked for it, and I cannot find it. But I definitely had it at some point, so I don't know where it ended up. Otherwise, I'd be talking about that today. It's a pretty cool looking minifigure, but unfortunately, since I don't have it, I can't review it today. Now up next is the Master Sith of the Skywalker Saga. That is Emperor Palpatine. Now this version both came in the Lego Death Star set that I have, and the one repairing Darth Vader like I talked about earlier. It's the same minifigure either way, so I'm just gonna talk about just one of them. I love the skin color that he has, how it's this like off-colored, almost yellowish, like off-colored look. It's a really nice color. His bright golden eyes really make it kind of all blend together. I do like how they added this cloak printing on the bottom here, and how his cloak looks in general. Pretty nice that they added that little metal piece that Darth Sidious has on his cloak. I think it's a nice little touch to add. And this does have a back of the face printing where he's just doing his angry look. Pretty nice face. I love the amount of detail that are on these. There is, once again, no back printing on this, so that's a little disappointing. But once again, a lot of these characters with capes don't need to have a back printing. It's just nice when they show that level of care to it. Now, up next, I have the Emperor's Shadow Guard. Now, once again, this is more of a character from the Force Unleashed games. Now, I've always liked how it's an inverted look to the standard Royal Guard here. How instead of being red with this black little visor, it's black with this red visor here. I like this chest printing here, even though most of it is covered up, it still has detail all the way through. Not a lot of it, just some swishes here and there, but really throws it together. And I do like how the face is just completely red and there's nothing else on it. No leg printing on this one, but honestly, I don't think it needs it. I think it works fine without it. And this character does not have any back printing. Now, taking a little bit of a time gap, the next character I'm going to talk about is Kylo Ren. Now, this is the only version I have of him where he has his cracked helmet that's all put back together with these red marks. I think that's also a really nice touch that they even added this, instead of just keeping the same helmet as before. It really adds this level of like cool depth to it to me. I really like Kylo Ren. I think he's a great character, and I love how he looks and everything. I like how his robes even have like this grid pattern on them that he has, and his belt and everything. It even follows through to the waist and the leg prints. I love when minifigures have that sort of flow to him. This one does have this back print, pretty generic, pretty much what you would expect, just this grid pattern and the waist belt there. This minifigure does have a face underneath. I love how the face looks underneath, but in the version that this came with, there's no hair accessory that it came with. Luckily, I have a hair accessory, so I can put it on, but it is a little bit disappointing that they had these two face prints, but no hair to go with it. It just kind of strikes me as weird when you add both face prints, but then the only piece you could put on their head is one that covers it up, and then even when it's not uncovered and you're showing it, if you want to show it, you have to have your own hairpiece already, which personally, I think they should just give you both a helmet and a hairpiece. Thankfully, I have this custom hairpiece, which is the hair that he comes with in other sets where he doesn't have it, but in both the ones that I got him in, he doesn't come with that hair, which is a little bit unfortunate. But as you can see, he looks super cool. I like how the scar goes through his face and everything. It's a really nice touch of detail, and I love his angry face. So yeah, that's pretty much every single dark side Force user that I have. But all these minifigures I either have really good memories of, or they just look so cool and I absolutely love them. But that is all for today's episode. I will see you guys tomorrow.
Farted on the track. Farted. Oh yeah. Yeah! We love that Dumpster Kid video. We all do! For more, like and subscribe. Hit it! Turn on the post notifications. Do it! Even when you're on vacation, you'll get notified.